Hello crafty friends, today I thought I would take a break from making cards and give you a little craft room tour because quite a few people have asked if they could see my craft space and how I store my supplies and tools, etc. So that's what we're going to do. Here are a few still photos of my craft room, craft space, craft conservatory. So we've got a conservatory on the back of our house in our back garden. It is 95% glass, which means I get beautiful natural daylight. It's especially good for filming on overcast days. But on really sunny days, I do put up a parasol inside the conservatory just so that bright sunlight doesn't fall on my desk and cause harsh shadows while I'm filming. If I'm not filming, then I probably won't put up the parasol. I'll just enjoy the sunshine. And as well as enjoying the natural light, I love the feeling of crafting in the back garden. When the weather's warm enough, I have all the doors and the windows open, so I feel like I am in the garden. I love the sound of the birds. I love the feeling of being amongst the plants. The garden is a bit overgrown this year because I've had some mobility issues and not been able to get out there as much as I'd have liked to do weeding and things like that. So it's kind of rewilded itself, which is kind of fine by me, really. Right, let's have a look what's on my desk. So this is a magnetic tray. These are two big strong magnets, and I use this for putting my dies in when I've finished using them, but I'm not quite ready to spend time putting them away in my die storage. This was actually suggested by a member of my Facebook group, and it is brilliant. It means I can put my dies in and I know I'm not going to lose them because they're going to stay magnetized in there. Speaking of magnets, I've got two magnetic ones. This is a small one. I think it's supposed to be used for nail art, but if you're having trouble picking up a die, you can just grab it and pick it up like that. This one is telescopic, and that means I can easily pick up dies that have fallen on the floor without having to bend over. This again was suggested by someone in my Facebook group, and that is a really helpful little tool. I also use it to pick up things that aren't magnetic, like bits of paper or things that have fallen on the floor. And all I do is put a bit of blue tack on the end and then extend it, and I can use it to pick things up. So it's a wonderful little tool. Definitely would recommend something like this. This little pot is where I keep my spray bottles. So I've got a DIY white shimmer spray here and just a water spray. And I also keep my glue bottles in it. So I've got some high tack, all-purpose, very sticky glue. And this is matte gel medium. And this just means that I can always find them when I want them. They don't get buried under paper and things like that when I'm working. This little caddy lives on my desk, contains all the bits and bobs that I use on a regular basis. So we've got tweezers, my edge beveling tool, bone folder, stylus, wax picker-upper, pen, pencils, bone folder, scissors. And then here we've got a variety of rulers that do different jobs. We've got double-sided sticky, a mop-up journal, glue. These are glues and gluey implements, craft knife, glue dotter, palette knives, glue spreader. I've got a pipette, my DIY correction pens, a handle for a sponge dauber, and then in the back I've got some little pockets of double-sided tape, double-sided cut-offs from sheets and foam and things like that. So this is something I use every single day, all day really. In this little tub I keep my baby wipes. I use these Fred and Flow biodegradable 100% plant-based baby wipes. They're fragrance free, and as I say, they're sort of environmentally friendly. But I decant them into here, so I just put a pile of them in there and pull them out the top when I want them. I can also stuff some in there if I've just used it for something small and it's still got some life left in it. I pop it back in there, and this keeps them wet, stops them drying out, and it also stops me losing my baby wipes under a pile of things. But most importantly, it stops me putting paper on top of wet baby wipes and ruining the paper, because I've done that many times until I got this. I also keep a small die cutting machine on my desk. This is my Gemini Mini. Up until recently, I've been using a Sizzix Sidekick, but I accidentally broke it. My son is repairing it for me, but I also have this one. So that is my current mini die cutting machine. It's great for when you just want to cut a small die and you don't want to get your big die cutting machine out. So that is everything that lives on my desk. To the right of my desk, I have everything that I want within arm's reach. I'm right-handed, so I reach to the right. These are all my distress oxides in a wooden system that I got from Amazon, I think. I've also got some Catherine Pooler metallic inks and my black inks and a white ink in there. On top, I keep my blenders. I've got a set for Catherine Pooler inks and a set for distress oxides. That's the watercolor palette that you often see me use in videos. And here I've got some metallic watercolors. And on top there is a mug of watercolor brushes. So everything's within arm's reach. I've got this paper stuck up at the window because sometimes the light comes in the roof and bounces off the window onto my desk. So that just stops that happening. Also to the right, I have a set of shelves that I use for everything else that I want to keep within arm's reach. This box here contains scrap packaging that I use for shims when I'm doing die cutting or when I need a scrap bit of paper. I've also got some scraps of watercolour paper in there and vellum and acetate. So this is a bit of a scraps bin. This magazine rack here, the black one, has some brown card, some white card, hammered textured, linen textured, the kind of card that I use to make my card blanks and panels with. I've got a pad of mixed media paper, a pad of watercolour paper, a photopolymer grip mat, some scrap copy paper. I think there's a colour wheel in there too, so that's just a useful bunch of bits and bobs. Over here I've got another triple slot magazine rack, and in here I've got vellum, I've got some grey board, I've got some colour wheels, I've got some masking paper, acetate sheets, again things I reach for really regularly, my stamp positioner, my Altenew stamp wheel, a Fiskars trimmer and a Fiskars guillotine. If we look down at the next shelf, I've got a bag here that contains my microfiber cloths, so I just grab one from there when I need it. This is my swatch ring. I've got a video showing you how I made that if you want to know. And then I've got some, these are actually fridge containers from TK Maxx, I think. This one's got some regularly used punches in it, stars and hearts, a pencil sharpener, some sticker release paper that is useful for all sorts of things. I've got a video about that as well. This one says party, just ignore that. That was from when I kept my Catherine Pooler party inks in there. But I've got all my Nouveau drops and crystal glaze and my almost empty Lindy Stamp Gang spray and some bleed proof white ink. That's now stuck to the end of the magnet. I've got a sponge in there, and I find sponges really useful for keeping things in place. That just stops all my Nouveau drops from falling over. I just rest my hairdryer and heat tool on this shelf so it's ready to grab when I want them. I've got acrylic blocks in there. These are all the dies that I use for making my DIY enamel dots, and I've got my little pill pot of enamel dots in there. This one has got some masking tape and my silicone coasters that I use as glue mats. These are cake icing scrapers that I use when I use texture paste. I've got a book of sketches, card sketches there, an eraser, and my Xyron sticker maker. On the windowsill behind, I've got some other things that I want to grab regularly. I've got finger daubers at the back there, my smushers, some more punches. I've got a star, a hole, and a heart punch, and a smaller hole punch, and my tiny attacher stapler. Down here I've got some bins. This one has white and black scraps in it, so when I do my white scrap videos, this is where I get my white scraps from. This is my box of backgrounds and bits, so all my leftover bits of mixed media go in there. So when I do background busting videos, that's where they come from. And this is a bin of metallic cardstock and glitter cardstock. I've got these in bags, and that just makes it easier to grab what I want. So if I want a small scrap of glitter cardstock, I grab the glitter bag, etc, etc. Please ignore the mucky floor, it does need a bit of a wash. But it is useful having a tiled floor when crafting, because it doesn't matter if I get paint or ink on the floor, I can just wipe it up. So on this bottom shelf, I've got all my sentiments here. This is my sentiment stash. I'll show you what those boxes look like in a tick. So if I make excess sentiments, they just go in here. This tub has got bits and bobs in it. I've got some bubble wrap, which I love to use in mixed media pieces. I've got my paper towel for mopping things up, an extra cutting plate for my Cuttlebug. I've got my ATG, my enormous tape runner, and my iPad is currently in there. It doesn't normally live in there, but if I'm using it out here and I want to get it off my desk, I just pop it in there and remember to take it in the main house at the end of the day. So that's what's beside my desk to the right, so I can easily grab it. I forgot to mention that up here I have some washi tape on a ring. So this is tape that I'm not really using for decorative purposes. I use it for masking or taping things down purposes. So this is what my sentiment storage looks like. These are 4x6 inch photo cases, and I just use them for storing sentiments. So this is my Christmas one, and I've got some Christmas sentiments in it. And I've put Christmas on the outside, so I sort them by occasion so that I can easily grab what I want. Okay, to the left of my desk, I keep my dies in another basket. I store my dies on magnetic sheets that I've stuck to some chipboard or grey board, and then I put them in these wallets. And I've got them arranged in type, and when I want a die, I just flick through until I find it. Really easy and straightforward. Underneath the little coffee table is my Cuttlebug. I just pull that out when I want to do some bigger die cutting. Also to the left of my desk is this trolley. On the top I keep my sentiment stamps. I've got 2 bins. This one is mostly Rose's Studio stamps, and these are all a mixture. I also keep my sentiment dies, so when I want a sentiment, everything's here. This is the middle tier of the trolley, and this is where I throw things as I finish using them, things that need to be put away. So at the moment I've actually got my Cuttlebug cutting plates, they'll just stay there. These are the Sizzix Sidekicks plates, they need to go away and wait for the repair. I've got a 6x6 paper pad, some stamps, some wax resist, some embossing powder and glitter in a little bowl. So some point today I'll put everything away that's in there. And the bottom shelf is pretty empty. I've just got a box and a little magnetic cutting plate. Again, I'll just throw things in there as I finish using them, and it just makes it easier for me to tidy up at the end of the day. On the other side of the conservatory, I've got another table. It's exactly the same size as the desk that I work on. And here I've got all my craft punches, easily accessible. All my embossing folders, which I use very regularly, sorted out by size. So these are the rectangular ones. We've got some square ones, some 3D ones, some long, thin ones. This is my box of current leftover die cuts from projects, so I'll put those with the rest of my leftover die cuts and use them at some point, maybe in my journal or maybe in a use it up video. These are just some wax melts that my daughter made for me, and they smell lovely. This is my typewriter, which I use for writing sentiments or maybe a bit of journaling for a journal page. And this is my box of alphabet dies and number dies. I keep them all on, I keep them all on magnetic sheets so they don't wander off and get lost. And I keep them in a box because, again, I don't want them to get lost. It's nothing worse than finding a crucial letter missing from your set of alphabet dies. So underneath the table, I've got 2 trolleys on wheels, and they've got 4 drawers in each and a nice flat top. So I keep a lot of my mixed media supplies in there. I'll show you each drawer in a minute. But the great thing about these is they're on wheels, so I can pull them out and have them next to me on my left-hand side and grab exactly what I want. And then when I've finished, I can just pop it straight back in and slide them back under. They've also got flat tops, which means I can pull them out and use them as another tabletop, which is great. So trolley number 1, the top drawer is heat embossing. So I've got embossing ink pads and some of my large pots of embossing powder. This is for use with Melt It. In here I usually keep my talcum powder, anti-static powder, anti-moisture thingamajigs to stop the powder going on everything. Got my tongs. This is my ideas for heat embossing tag flip thing. I've got a video where we made that, I think. Embossing pens. This one has other embossing powders in it. These are all the small pots. I keep my pots upside down so that I can see through the top and see what colour I've got in each pot. And also I write what they are in initials on the top. So this says MCSF, so that's metallic copper superfine. Just makes it easier and quicker to grab what I want. I've also got some tags where I've swatched out all of my embossing powders so I can have a look at what they look like when they're actually on a card. And there at the back I've got a little iron or a heat press that I use when I want to melt embossing powder by pressing down on it with something hot. I've got videos about that in my Heat Embossing 101 playlist. Down here we've got pigment powders, gilding waxes, luster waxes, mica powders, shimmer sprays. I've got some, I think that's gum arabic, some rubber cement. So again, things I use fairly frequently. In the bottom drawer, this is where I keep my foiling and gilding flake equipment. So I've got all the bits in there, the glues, the pastes. I've got some liquid gold leaf. I've got my cosmic shimmer gilding flakes, so that's all in there. In the top of trolley number 2, I've got acrylic paint. I've got matte gel medium, I've got texture pastes and black calligraphy ink. Next I've got my watercolour pencils, some masking. I've also got some Melt It and a little melting pot to melt it in. Drawer number 3 has glitter and the glue that I use to make my own glitter. This is thread and fabric and twine. And down here is a bits and bobs drawer. We've all got one. Things that don't belong anywhere else in our storage system. So I've got some contact paper there, some pins, leftover die cuts, clear packing tape, my brayers, my sewing kit, some spare refills from my ATG, a spare, what's that, staples, spare glue dot brushes, a screwdriver. So yeah, all sorts of bits and bobs in there. So that, my friends, is the craft conservatory. I do have some more things stored in the lounge and I'll show you that now. So this is the side wall of my lounge, and the lounge is attached to the conservatory. And I've got 4 shelving units here with craft stuff in it. 3 of them are IKEA units that I scavenged from around the house. They weren't being used, so I grabbed them for the lounge. I've also got a metal shelf that I used to have out in the shed when I crafted out there, but now it's in the lounge. So on top, I've got up here finished cards waiting to find new homes. Got my colour cubes, which I never use, but they look nice up there. Some bits and bobs I bought back from Japan. This is a water bottle that needs filling up, so I've got water out in the conservatory. Up here, I've got a box of things that are kind of waiting to get rehomed. These are tubs and boxes that I use when I'm doing various projects. I keep them up there, grab an appropriate size one and put all the bits in it that I need. Here we have a tub of journals, so current journals, finished journals, things like that, and some spare paper. This tub contains electronic things, leads and cables and all sorts of things, and I keep them wrapped up in bags, so if I need the cable or the power supply for a certain piece of equipment, I can easily grab it from there. This is sort of bits of printer equipment. On this shelf, I've got memory keeping bits. This is my bookbinding tool and spirally binding things. We've got some spare storagey things that I pull out, stamp folders and things when I need them. This is all watercolour stuff, including spare watercolour sets and tubes of watercolour. There's also some pens and pencils in there. Got a couple of bookshelves. These books tend to be more crafty, arty books. These are more kind of living well and mental health books. Here's a set of drawers with paper in that's organised by colour. And here I've got two boxes that just have kind of refills in. So tapes, Nouveau drops, glues, sticky notes. When I run out of something in my craft room, I come out here and grab what I need. Up here I've got another mini die cutting machine. This is a tattered lace one. And some journaling memory keeping type stamps here. My alcohol markers, colouring pencils, a box of things to create texture with. This is where I keep my cardstock and paper before I take it out to the conservatory, stops it getting damp. This is all glitter and metallics and a few bits of pattern paper. And then this is all white or sticker paper. So I've got hammered, textured, linen textured, smooth cardstock, some different weights for different things. And then I've got pads of paper on the end, mixed media paper, drawing paper, Bristol smooth paper, watercolour paper, that kind of thing. These four at the bottom are all scrapbooking collections. Most of them are either from Rose's Studio or Cocoa Vanilla Studio, I think. I've also got some paper pads from the works. So when I'm making journals or doing some memory keeping, I use these. And then on the top of my metal shelf, I've got my Silhouette Cameo digital cutting machine. I've got my hobby sewing machine that I use for sewing on paper. On the next shelf down, I've got rubber stamps, my stencil folders and my stamp storage folders. Down below, I've got my re-inkers, my Catherine Pooler inks and a box of clear embossing powder and a box of gold embossing powder. In this basket down below, I've got rolls of things. So I've got some vinyl, I've got baking paper, cling film, press and seal, wax paper, silver foil. And this box here has got my Mojo May things. Check out my Mojo May playlist for more information on that. And then on the bottom shelf, I've got my Gemini electronic die cutting machine and big bottles and spray bottles of mediums like gesso and adhesive spray, baby powder for making my anti-static powders pouches. And on the bottom, some spare baby wipes and some tins and a bag of cards waiting to go to a charity shop. And there you go, that's a little tour of my craft storage and my craft space. I hope it's given you some helpful ideas on how to organise maybe your own craft supplies. And I hope you've just enjoyed this little peek behind the scenes. Right, thanks for watching and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.